Hi everyone, my name is Peter Hart. I'm a Severn Starboard team rider, technique editor of Windsurf magazine, very former competitor, and now running coaching clinics across the world. And in a month's time, I'm going to be leading a group of pretty advanced windsurfers out into the waves of Ireland. And one of the most common questions I get asked is, should I buy a freestyle waveboard or a waveboard? Well, there's no one simple answer, but generally, if you're asking that question, the answer is freestyle wave, but let's look at the options and see what they're both good for. Well, if you're asking the question, should I get the wave or freestyle wave, the chances are this is the right option, the freestyle wave, because it sounds like you're not 100% committed to the wave, but you do want it to perform in other areas as well. And that's generally how our all-round sailing is. One day it's flat, one day it's a bit of chop, sometimes there's some waves. And then this is like your four-wheel drive, fast, go everywhere vehicle. Now the things that make it good for that are, first of all, its early planing and its top speed, which means, and I'll show you right now, underneath it's going to have a slightly straighter rocker line. One of the most important design features of a board, which the shaper really concentrates on, is the entry point to the rocker. That's the point at which the board first makes contact with the water. And here on the Ultra Kode, it's quite near the middle. So you've got this flat section back here, which rests in the water, and is a very slippery contact. So the board wants to get up and plane early. There's a little bit of tail rocker at the back, and that means as you weight the back foot, you'll get a little bit of snap or easy turning. But that section there is basically the get up and go section. Now, it's not a problem really unless you're in very big waves, but as you take a drop down a wave, that flat section then can catch the wave face, so you tend to have to make your turns further out in front on the flat. But that is a price that you don't mind paying early on when you've got so much speed and manoeuvrability. In another video, I'm going to be talking about how you set up the Kode for very different disciplines. But right now, what's important is for your wave riding is that you have these inboard foot strap settings, which above all with the front foot allow you to get that foot right through the toes across the center line, so you can do front foot carving, which completely changes your style of jibing and carving the board. Also, there's a multiple sets of holes depending whether you favour a narrow stance or a wide stance for jumping. And above all too, you've got these outboard settings, so you can turn it into free ride mode with a big centre fin. Having the option of centre fin or the thrusters again increases its versatility. So it does work really well in the wave, but it also works in other places as well. When I'm advising people which boards to buy, I say usually there's a hint in the title. And waveboard, designed for waves. And this 100 Ultra, although almost the same volume as the Kode, could not feel more different under the feet. And the reason is that waves is all about manoeuvring in the air and on the water. So the main setup is for when you're going around the corners, not for when you're blasting. Now some people do buy waveboards. They think, well, there will be a good high wind board for me just clattering around on chop. And they kind of do work, but actually that's not what they're best at, and I'll just show you why. Now we looked at the rocker line of the Kode, and as I showed you, had quite a long flat section which helps the board get up and glide. Now on the Ultra you can see that the entry to the rocker is much further back, so that means that it's generally planing on a much smaller surface, and it's therefore wanting to hunt from side to side. It also means that as you get going, it's pushing a little wall of water in front of it to start with. It means you just have to work a bit harder to get it onto the plane. Likewise, if you look at the tail rocker from here back, that sudden curve there helps the board be incredibly manoeuvrable as you increase the back foot pressure, say, to come off the back of a wave, but it is going to slow it down a bit. So when you're moving on this board and planing along, the feeling is it always wants to turn, go from rail to rail. So the waveboard, you don't get the big single fin option. These boards are designed to be used with small fins, in this case a thruster setup, and that demands a certain sailing style. You've got to sail more off the front foot. You can't rely on that big back foot push against the central fin to get you going. You've got to be a little more sensitive with your pressures. Turning it over, you see we have fewer strap options, inboard only, because that is how you turn a waveboard, with your feet in the middle of the board. You can of course widen them or narrow them depending on your leg length and your preference. Wider if you're really good and you like that super sensitive contact to scissor the board on line when you're in the air, and the wider they are, the more you can get your hips forward or back to lengthen or shorten the rail when you're turning. Then the other feature which is interesting is the nose kick. This bit here is actually not the nose rocker. The nose kick is the bit just at the end. A lot of people think that's for helping the board cope with chop. It's not actually. The best boards over chop are slalom and freeride boards, which have a very gradual entry to the rocker, which makes the board slide over the chop. That nose kick actually slams into it a bit. What that's for is for when you're coming down from very steep jumps or loops or dropping down a steep wave. It helps the board bottom out and prevents nose diving. So to sum up then, it's versatility with the Freewave against wonderful manoeuvrability with the waveboard. If it's your first time in the waves, certainly the Freewave board knocks off the difficult edges. It's slightly easier to sail, it planes earlier, gets you through that nasty impact zone and the dull patches, and then once you're on the wave and you're starting to make turns and you're really enjoying it and committed to the whole exercise, that's the time to transition over. And one guy said to me recently, after he'd made that very transition from Freewave to wave, the first time I got on a wave, that was so good, it felt like cheating. Well, thanks for watching, and good luck in the waves.